Hello and welcome. This is Saad Usman. In today's video, we are going to discuss various methods to remove duplicate values from a given data set. When we work on large amount of data, it always is a challenge to make sure that we are not working on duplicate values. To find out the unique values from the data set, we can use a range of methods which are available in Excel. So we are going to discuss 7 different methods to remove duplicate values. So we have a given data set in sheet 1 and in columns A to D, in which we have got 150 rows of data, and we have got 4 different columns. So we can employ different methods to remove duplicate from this data set. First, I'm going to copy this data set to a new location, and then I will apply my first method of removing duplicate. So my first method of removing duplicate lies in the data column, data menu of the ribbon. In the data tool set, we have this option called remove duplicates. When we click on this option, the dialog box asks us to make sure to specify where to look for the duplicate values. We can select all the columns to find out the duplicate values, which means that no two rows can be the exact same replica of each other. But if we select a single column, which means that, for example, if I select just column region, it means that there cannot be duplicate values in the region column. All the regions should be appearing only once. But in our case, we want to make sure that no two rows are exactly the same. So we will check all the columns here, and I will also check this checkbox which mentions that my data has headers, which means that my data, the first row of my data, contains the headings, which is the case in our data set. So I'm going to click on OK, and the message comes is 16 duplicate values are found and removed, and out of 150, 134 unique values are remaining. So this is the first method of removing duplicate values from the data set. The second method to remove duplicate is to create a table of the data set, and then we can remove duplicate values. I will select the data and copy it to my new location so that I have the data set in front of me also, and then I will convert this data into a table. In order to convert the data into table, I can use various options, but for the moment I am just going to insert and click on this table. My table dimensions have been already selected by the Excel, and my table also has headers, so I will just click OK, and my range of cells is now converted into a proper Excel table. When I click on my Excel table, the table design tab appears, and in this design tab there's an option in the tools section which called removes duplicate. So if I click on removes duplicate option, the same window appears, and since the selection is already fine, I'm going to click on OK, and the same message appears that 16 duplicate values were found and removed. So this is now a data set which contains of only 134 unique values. This was the second method of removing duplicates. Let's move on to the third method. The third method applies the technique called advanced filter, and in this case I am going to select this data set, and I will go to data tab and I will click on advanced. This is the advanced filter option. When I select advanced filter option, since I have already selected my data, so the list range has already been selected, which is fine. I want to copy the data into a new location, and I will use this option to specify that my new location, my table should start with the cell H6, so which is fine now, and I will select this option called unique records only. Since I'm not extracting any specific data from my original data set, I will keep the criteria range as blank, so I'm not choosing which data to pick from my original data set. I will select all my data, but just I will make sure to remove the duplicate values and fetch the unique records. So I will click on OK, and then again you can see that my duplicate values have been removed and some unique values are remaining. If I count the number of rows, for instance, so these are exactly 134 rows of data, which was the same as the previous one. So this is the third method of removing duplicate values. Now let's move on the fourth method. The fourth method is to create a simple pivot table. I will select this data and I will create a pivot table, insert pivot tables, and I will choose an existing location to get my pivot table. I will select this row cell H6 and I will click OK. So I have this pivot table field list appearing in front of me. I'm going to make an exact replica of my um, original data set, sales, and then products, and then salespersons, and then sales values. And I don't want to sum the sales values here, so I'm going to use another option, which is putting the sales value in the rows section. And now I'm going to use design tab, and I will format my pivot table, repeat all item labels, and report layout is tabular, and I don't want any subtotals. I don't want any grand totals either. So if I look at my pivot table now, you will see that it is now exactly in the same number of rows. The duplicate rows have been removed and I have exactly 134 rows of data, which is the unique list of my original data set. So we can use pivot tables to remove my duplicate values from the original data set as well. Let's move on to the fifth option of removing duplicates, and this fifth option is to use the option called get and transform. And in this case I will go to my data menu and I will click on this option called from table or range. So I will just click on this option, and in this case, so we have got this power query window now. I want to readjust it a little bit so we can see it clearly. Now we have this data in Power Query, and in the Power Query we want to make sure that there are no duplicate values. So I don't want to perform any more transformations here, so I will just click on this small box on the left side of the table, and there's an option called remove duplicates. If I click on this, and then I will take my data back to my worksheet. So I will click on close and load to, and I want to put my data in the existing worksheet in column in cell H6. I'll click OK, and there you see 134 rows have been loaded, which means that the 16 duplicate rows have been removed. So this is my fifth method of removing duplicate values using the get and transform, or the previous name of which was Power Query method of in Excel. The sixth option to remove duplicate values is a formula, which is a dynamic array formula, which the users of Office 365 can easily use. And this dynamic array formula is called unique. I will type the formula unique here, and I will select the array, the entire array in one go, bracket close and enter, and then you can see the entire table has been spilled over to the adjacent cells, and the number of rows of my table is again 134, which means that I have the unique values from this data set. So this is a truly dynamic way of creating a unique data set, because if I want to, let's say, these two lines are exactly the same. If I change this so to 110, I have one more line appearing in my data set, because now we have got 135 rows of unique values rather than 134. So it is dynamically updating itself based on the data. So this is one method which employs the dynamic array formula called unique. My last method of removing duplicate values is another method, which another dynamic array formula called filter. In this method, we are going to use two different formulas along with the filter formula to achieve our desired result. The first formula is called text join. The text join formula joins different cells into a text string. This formula is written like text join. First, we have to specify a delimiter. In this case, my delimiter is pipe. I have to specify the next thing, that whether I want to ignore the empty cells or not. There are no empty cells in my data, so I can choose either of the one option, and then finally I have to select the text values. So A7 to D7, and this is the concatenated or join list of my data set. I will click on double click it to move it down. The next formula I'm going to apply is Countif. I want to find out how many times a particular entry is appearing in my dataset, starting from the top row. The formula is called count if. My range is dynamic, so I can extend the range as I move down. I will fix the first row of my range and the second row will be kept as variable. And the criteria range, the criteria is my current cell, which is E7. When I double click it, it will specify how many times a particular cell is appearing in the table above. So in the bottom, you can see that there are certain entries which are appearing twice. Now I will apply the filter formula to make sure that the list is only unique. First, I have to specify the array, the cells which contain my data, and then I want to specify the filter parameter. The array starts from column A and ends at column D and row 156. And then I have to specify the column of countif. I will make sure that it is equal to 1. And when I when I press enter, it gives me a unique data set of 134 rows. If I want to get the duplicate values only, I can select 2 here, and in this case you can see that I have got the rows of 16 rows of my duplicate values. Since we want to have unique values, I'm going to put 1 again. So this gives me a dynamically calculated unique data list from my original data set. So these are the 7 different methods we can employ for removing duplicate values. Sometimes we can use the dynamic formulas if our data set keeps on changing, or we feel the data set might change in future. So we can use dynamic array formulas. Otherwise, we can use either of the first 5 formulas to perform a remove duplicate function or action on a static data set. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.